If you're going to sell insurance, the biggest hurdles you'll face aren't in the market and they're not in your product. They're inside the head of your prospect, which means if you want to win, you've got to understand how the human mind actually works. In this video, I'm breaking down the 7 principles from Robert Cialdini's influence, The Psychology of Persuasion, and showing you exactly how to apply them in insurance sales so you can ethically guide prospects to say yes. Let's get into it. The first truth you need to understand is reciprocation. Here's how it works. People are more inclined to like you and deal with you if they feel you've already given them something of value. That's why so many companies have rules about accepting gifts, because once you get something, there's a built in psychological urge to return the favor. So, in sales, one of the smartest ways to do this is by giving your prospects something useful for free. I don't mean trinkets or coffee mugs, although that helps. You can do that. I mean a resource that solves real problems for them. That's what people mean when they say bring value. You're triggering that psychological need to return the favor. So, for us as insurance brokers, our value is knowledge. We know how to buy insurance well. So, you can give them something they can use, like if you're dealing with contractors, a sample subcontractor agreement to prevent audit headaches. Or you can give somebody a 3-step checklist on how to prevent the number one claim in their industry. Or you can highlight a common coverage gap that most people don't understand. If you do that, you're not just some broker asking for business, you're the person who already helped them. And human nature says they'll want to give that back, often by doing business with you. The second thing you need to understand is that people like to be liked. I've got a couple stories to tell you here. First comes straight out of the book, where Robert Cialdini talks about the best car salesman ever. And his number one tactic for selling cars was to send his prospects a postcard that says, I like you. That was it. And those prospects, that his customers felt like, man, that guy likes me. I must be okay. It works. The other story I want to tell is just from my own personal life. One of my best friends, Dave, his number one skill that I've tried to emulate is he's the best listener I've ever seen. And when he engages with somebody, he makes people feel like they are the only person in the room. And you see this skill set, they talk about it with Bill Clinton and politicians all over the place, that part of their magnetism is that they make the person in front of them feel like they are the only person in the world and that they really, really like them. It's a psychological thing you need to understand. Now, you can't be cheap about it. You can't be phony about it. I think one of the things that salespeople do that just comes across as corny is they walk in and they pick out something on the wall and they ask a question about it. It's like, oh, you must like fishing. Everybody does that. I mean, sure, do that to an extent. But what you really need to do is when you start talking to somebody, pull out of them what they're thinking and what they're feeling, ask questions, and be 100% engaged with what they're saying and what they're feeling. Because if you can get that out of them and you make them feel like they are the most interesting person in the world, they're going to like you and they're going to be much more inclined to do business with you. The third principle you need to understand is social proof. Simply put, people are much more likely to trust you if they see that someone they already know and trust works with you. So here's an example. I was at the lake and the check engine light came on in my car. And what was my wife's first reaction? She didn't ask me about it because I don't know a thing about fixing cars. What she did was she went to Google and she found a local mechanic and she started looking at the Google reviews. Why? Because if 150 people had taken the time to go online and say, hey, this is a great mechanic, that's proof. Somebody else already vetted them out for her, so she feels safe going there. That's social proof in action. As an insurance broker, you can use it too. Google reviews for your agency are gold if you can get them. Client references are very powerful. And yes, name dropping can work, but only if you do it naturally. The point is to show your prospects that people just like them already trust you. And when you do that, you're not a stranger asking for business. You're a proven choice. And the human brain loves the safety of going with somebody that is the proven choice. The fourth principle you need to understand is authority, what Robert Cialdini calls directed deference. Here's what it means. When people hear something from somebody they perceive to be an authority figure, their brain defaults to, well, that's what I've got to do. It's why you hear, well, my accountant told me to do it this way, or my attorney said this is the right move, or in churches, it's our denomination, or in franchises, it's corporate told us. The human brain is wired to follow the lead of perceived experts. And in sales, that can work one of two ways. One, it can work against you. If their CPA or lawyer or industry association is pointing them towards someone else or a specific program, you're walking into a conversation where the decision is already made in their mind against you. Or two, it can work for you. If you can position yourself as the authority or align yourself with a respected authority, they'll be far more likely to take your recommendation without a fight. This is one of the greatest powers of association marketing and having an association endorse you as a preferred choice. So if authority is against you, you have to reframe. Ask, does that advice still make sense if it costs 30% more and leaves you out of coverage you actually need? Show them you're not defying the authority, you're adding to it with better information. If authority is with you, then lean on it. Bring the data, the compliance requirements, the industry standards, and frame yourself as the expert that they can defer to. Here's the bottom line. In sales, people don't just buy what makes sense, they buy what feels endorsed by an expert. Your job is to either be that expert or stand right next to one. The fifth principle you need to understand is scarcity. Simply put, when there's less of something, people want it more. You see it everywhere. In dating, it's the taken guy who's suddenly become more attractive. In retail, it's Louis Vuitton handbags. You can't just grab one off the shelf, and that lack of availability is part of the appeal. In insurance sales, the product itself might not be scarce. They can buy coverage from dozens of brokers. The scarcity is you. It's your time, your expertise, and your process. You can only handle so many clients, and not everyone is a fit. When you make that clear, it flips a switch in your prospect's mind. They start leaning in because they don't want to miss out. It's the same reason you don't say, I'm totally free next week. Pick any time. That screams, no one else wants me. Instead, offer two specific times. I can do Thursday at 2:30 or Friday at 11. Which works for you? It suddenly tells them your time is in demand, which makes them value it more. Scarcity signals that others already want what you have, and that taps right back into social proof. When people believe that you are in demand, they see you as more desirable and they move faster to grab the opportunity before somebody else can take it. The sixth principle you need to understand is commitment and consistency. Basically, there's this thing that happens in a person's brain that once they pick something, they automatically like it more. It's a big deal with stock investments. Once you buy a stock, you automatically like that stock. Or if you play fantasy football and you draft Patrick Mahomes, you're going to have a hard time giving up on Patrick Mahomes. So in the insurance world, there's two ways that you need to keep this psychological tendency in mind. One, if you're dealing with a prospect and they picked the program and they picked the broker, they are going to be attached to that decision, which means you cannot attack it. You will be attacking the individual. If you go back and say, well, that's a terrible company or that's a terrible broker, they're going to look at you and say, you're attacking me. The second thing that you need to do from a sales perspective is get people to commit to different parts of the process. It's setting rules of the game, because what you're trying to do there is trigger that internal psychological effect that happens with people that says, well, I said I would do this thing, therefore I really should do it. I committed to it, and only not trustworthy people change their mind and back out. It's not foolproof. Trust me, people are going to back out. They're going to lie to you. It's going to happen. But as much as possible, you want to trigger that internal tendency people have that when they commit to do something, that it's the right thing to do to follow through on it. The seventh and final principle is called unity. It goes a step beyond you liking someone and them liking you. It's somebody sees you as one of them. So let me tell a couple of stories to illustrate what this looks like in the insurance sales world. I used to have a well driller, and I met with them every year. I reviewed their program. I thought I was on really good terms with them until one day, it was a Monday morning. I showed up and there was a notification from the company saying they signed a letter to change brokers, and they never took my call again. I got a couple of texts out of them, and what I learned is that they changed to another broker that used to be a well driller. And they said, this guy's one of us. Similarly, I go to a conference every year for the State Association for Service Providers for the Intellectually and Developmentally Disabled here in Maryland. There's one broker who used to be a CFO for one of those service providers. And there's this one service provider, every time I call them, they'll tell me, yeah, this guy, he brings so much value. He used to be one of us. He really just gets us. See, that broker, those brokers took a step beyond just bringing value and reciprocation and being liked. They made the transition to being inside the industry. And I've never figured out how to break that. Once you are that person where people feel like you're one of their tribe, or you're competing against someone that they say that person's part of my tribe, that's a virtually unbreakable bond. So those are the 7 psychological levers: reciprocation, liking, social proof, authority, scarcity, commitment and consistency, and unity. And when you understand how each one works, you start to see them everywhere. When you can spot them, you can use them ethically to guide your prospects toward a decision that's in their best interest. The truth is, most producers lose deals not because of the competition, not because of the price, but because they never learned how the human mind actually works. In the next video, I'm going to dig into personality types and how each of them respond to different situations so you can cater your message directly to the person that you're talking to. Look, if this video was helpful, please hit like and subscribe. It helps people find the content. If you've got questions or comments, drop them in the comment section. I read all of them and answer all of them. Thank you so much for watching, and please go build something great.